we will set. Okay, so let's, now that we've got our model script set out, let's go. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to download and install Oracle 18c Express Edition. Before installing Oracle Database 18c Express Edition, it's good to take a look at the system requirements. So these are the system requirements according to Oracle. So the operating system requirements are listed in this area here. If you're going for a virtualization type install, the requirements are listed here. The disk space, you need 8.5 gigabytes minimum for the Oracle software, so it tells you what it needs. And the actual RAM, you need 2 gigabyte minimum RAM. So make sure you have all these requirements that have been specified by Oracle. You also need to have administrative privileges on the computer in which you're trying to install the Oracle Database 18c Express Edition. So open up Google or whatever search engine you're using and just type in Oracle download, and that will give you Oracle software download depending on what country you are. I'm in the UK, so it's going to give me the download page for UK. So I'm going to click on this here that says Oracle software download, and it will take me to the Oracle software page. All right, oracle.com/UK, because I'm in the UK, and then /download. So I'm going to scroll down here. There are different types. There's database download and other aspects, other types of downloads. I'm interested in a database download. So here under database, I'm going to scroll down. We can see the different databases here. The Express Edition is the free versions. Okay, so anywhere you see Express Edition, that means it's a free version. This is the database 18c Express. That's the one I want. So I'm going to click on that, and that will give me this page here. All right, so I am running on a Windows-based computer, and I'm running on a 64-bit Windows. So this is the one I want. So you choose the one that is relevant to your computer. So I'm going to click on this download option here to begin the download. I'm going to click to accept the license agreement and then click to download. You're going to be taken to a sign up page. So if you've got an Oracle account, you put in your details and click sign in. If you haven't got an Oracle account, there's a button here, an option here to create an account. So you do need to create an account before the download will commence. So make sure you do that. All right, so I've already signed in. So I'm just going to click sign in. And once I sign in, the download will begin. All right, so that's my download here. It has started. Notice here it's got a kind of a zipped format. This is going to be in an extracted format. So you will need a software extraction tool in order to extract the content of this download. So I'm going to be using WinRAR. You can see here, this is the icon of WinRAR. I've already got WinRAR installed on my computer. WinRAR is a free software extraction tool that you can use. So just feel free to Google search it and download if you haven't got it. If you've got one already, feel free to use that. My download has completed. That's the downloaded file here, which is 1.9 gigabytes in size. I'm just going to go to the location where it was downloaded to. I'll click on that and click show in folder, and that shows me the location. So this is the file. It's in a zipped or compressed format. So to extract the content, I'm going to use a software extraction tool, and the one I have is called WinRAR. So I want to extract it into a folder. So I'm going to right click and create a folder here. I'm just going to call it Oracle, and then I'm going to extract the content into this folder called Oracle. So I right click on the compressed file, and they'll say extract files, and then it will give me a location where to extract it to. So I'm going to choose the location. This is my downloads folder, which is this folder, and this is where I want to extract it, which is this folder here, and I'll click OK, and it will extract the content into this folder here. So we'll give it a few minutes for the extraction to complete. So the extraction has been completed, so I'm going to open up this folder, and I am going to look for a setup file. Now the inside here, there should be a setup file. This one here is what I want. It's going to say setup. So I'm just going to double click to begin to run the installation. You may get a pop-up window for antivirus. Just click yes to accept that, and then continue the installation. So you will get this window here. Click next and click I accept. Once you've accepted the agreement, click next, and then it gives you a location. This is the default location where it installs. If you don't want it to install in this location, you can change the location, but I'm going to accept this default location. I'll click next, and then this is very important. You need to enter a password that you can use. So this same password is going to be used for these user accounts, the sys, the system, and the PDBA admin account. So any password you enter here in future, you can use it against these accounts listed. So make sure you enter a password that you will remember. I've entered my password. I'm going to click next, and it tells me the destination folder where it's going to install the software database. All right, I'll click install, and then it will progress with the installation. So depending on your resources on your computer, the installation can take anywhere between maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So it's different for different systems. The installation of the Oracle Database 18C Express Edition has completed. Take note of some information here. It tells you here the multi-tenant container database runs on localhost on port 1521. The pluggable database runs on localhost port 1521, and this is the name of the pluggable database. And if you want to access the database via your web browser, this is the link you need to type into your web browser. So take note of these information. When you're done, just click finish. So that is it for this video. We successfully installed Oracle Database 18C Express Edition. Thank you for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. What is SQL Plus? SQL Plus is a command line tool that you use to interact with Oracle Database. It comes pre-installed when you install Oracle Database. You can use it to start and shut down the Oracle Database. You can use it to create and manage database users. You can use it to alter database objects like tables and indexes. You can also use it to insert, update, and delete data. You can use it to run queries on the database, and you can use it to connect to both local and remote database. A local database is the one that's installed on your computer, while a remote database is a database that you connect to that is located in another computer or a network. To launch the SQL Plus, you look into your Oracle installation folder. So this is mine. And if I expand that, you should see an option for SQL Plus. I'm going to click on that, and it will give me this, and is asking for a username. So username, when you installed Oracle, it gave you a variety of usernames you can use. One of them was called system. So I'm going to use system. I press enter, and the password will be the password you set during the installation of the Oracle database. So I've entered my password. I'm going to press enter, and if you are successful, it tells you here you are connected to the Oracle database 18C Express Edition. It tells you the release number as well. All right, so once you see this, it means you have successfully connected to the Oracle database. So from this SQL Plus, you can interact with the Oracle database and perform a variety of database operations. You can also run queries. Let's say I want to check for all the usernames. I can just type in this query, which is select star from all underscore users, and you end up with a semicolon. I'm using uppercase here, but you don't necessarily have to use uppercase. So if I press enter, that will give me all the users in this database. So you can see here, it's giving me a list of different types of users. So there are different commands you can run on this SQL Plus to interact with the Oracle database. So that is it for this quick introduction to SQL Plus. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'll be showing you how to unlock the sample HR schema that comes bundled with the installation of Oracle 18C Express Edition. Before you can access the schema, you have to unlock it. What is a schema? A schema is basically a collection of database objects that is owned by a specific user. So the objects could include database tables, indexes, views, store procedures, and other related database objects. So I'm going to be using the Oracle SQL Plus to unlock the schema. So let's access the SQL Plus. So I click on my Oracle folder and I look for SQL Plus, and the account I'm going to use is the sysdba. So what I'll do, I'll type in SQL Plus as sysdba. So I'm basically saying I want to access SQL Plus as a system database administrator. So I press enter, and the password is asking me for is the password I created during the installation of Oracle database. So once I've entered the password, I'll press enter, and you can tell I've connected to the Oracle database 18C Express Edition. So now I can start issuing command. The first thing I want to do is find out the ID of the container that contains the pluggable database which the HR schema belongs to. So this is the SQL command I type to find out the container I need to locate to unlock the HR schema. So once you've entered this command, press enter, and you can tell this is the container, this is the ID, so it has an ID of 3. XEPDB1 is the pluggable database that I am looking for. You might be wondering, what is this PDB seed? Now, PDB seed is basically what is known as the seed pluggable database. It's also a system supplied template which a container database can use for creating user defined pluggable database. The next thing we want to do is find out the name of the service. So to find out the name of the service, this is the query you type in. You select the name as this alias, service name, from this underscore where the container ID is 3. We've already identified the container ID we want is 3. So to find the service name, we execute that query. So I'm going to press enter, and it's giving me the name of the service, which is XEPDB1. The next thing I want to do is alter the session. So I want to switch from the container database to a pluggable database. So the query I'm going to have added is this one here. You type in alter session and then you set the container to equals to the service name. All right, you can see here the query has been executed. It tells me the session has been altered. The next step is to check if the pluggable database is actually open. So this is a command you type to check if the pluggable database is open. You select the name and then you type in open_mode from this and press enter, and it tells you it's now opened, and you can read and you can write to that pluggable database. So finally now we can now unlock the account. To unlock the HR account, you type in this command alter space user, and the name of the user is called HR in lowercase, and then you type in identified by HR, and then you type in account unlock. So what that means is that HR is going to be the name of the user and the password is going to be HR. So press enter, and if it is successful, it tells you user altered. In this video, I showed you how to successfully unlock the sample HR schema. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to download and install Toad. Toad is a database administration and also an SQL development tool. And this is the official website for Toad. It is owned by Quest. So if I scroll down here, you can see the various options. You can download Toad for a free 30 days trial that will give you access to all the functionalities in Toad. Toad is a very popular tool that is used in Oracle database development and administration. There are different editions of Toad. We've got Toad for Oracle DBA edition. We've got Toad for Oracle Developer Edition, and we've got Toad for Oracle Expert Edition. I'm going to be downloading a free trial for the Toad for Oracle DBA Edition. I'm going to click on this download button to begin the download. To begin the download, you have to supply an email address. So enter an email address here. It then prompts you to fill out the rest of the details on the form. Once you've completed all the details on the form, just click on the try button. Next, you are presented with the download page. So click on the download relevant to your operating system. If you have a 64-bit operating system, then select the download option for 64-bit. If you're on a 32, select the option for 32. I'm on a 64, so I'm going to click on this download arrow here to begin the download. As you can see, my download has started. That's my download here on the bottom left hand corner. I'm just going to give it a few minutes to complete, and then I will run the installation. The download has completed, so that's the download file here. So I'm just going to double click to run the installation. You are then presented with the welcome screen for the installation. So just click on next. On the right here, these are the various steps that the installation will walk you through. So make sure you check to accept the license terms. Click next. When you registered for an account on Quest, it usually sends you the licensing details for the trial product. So you should get an email like this from Quest when you sign up, and then you are presented with the license key. So this is the key that you need to copy and add to the licensing for the product. So I've copied my license key. I'm going to click on this button to say add license, and then I'm going to right click and paste it in there. And then there is a site message as well you need to add. If you go back into your email, this is the site message. It says trial version, so you need to add that to the product for the license page. I've copied the text for the site message, so I'm going to right click and paste it there. Click OK. You can see the information. It tells you the expiration date for the license trial period. So click next. So we're now on the product selection page. So these are the various tools that will be installed with the trial version. So I'm going to uncheck all of them. I only need the default tool for Oracle. The other bits and pieces you can add as well, but for the purpose of this video, I'm only going to stick to the actual tool. So I'll click next. This is the default location where the software will be installed. If you want to change that, you can click on the change button here and then change the location. But I will advise you leave the default and click next. You may get this warning here before the installation step. You can click on this check again, or you can click ignore. So I'm going to click check again so that we can see what it is. The warning is not a showstopper. It's just saying that a third-party component dependency is not installed. I'm going to click to ignore the warning. So I'll click on this button that says ignore all, and then click on the install button to begin the installation. The installation has now completed, so I'm going to click on the finish button, and this is what the Toad for Oracle icon looks like. Hello, in this lecture we are going to connect Toad to Oracle database. To begin, right click on the Toad for Oracle icon and click on Run as Administrator, and just click yes if you get a prompt. So it's trying to load the interface for Toad for Oracle. All right, so it gives you some bits and pieces. It tells you that you've got one seat and it expires in 30 days. So just click done and it should launch. You should hear a croaking sound. It's kind of like the sound of a toad croaking. That's the noise that Toad makes when you launch the application. You might see an option like this saying the SQL tuning module is not installed, blah, blah, blah. You can click don't show again and click OK to that. You should get a connection box like this. So this is where you need to enter some details in order to talk or connect to the database. So we've already unlocked the schema called HR. So we'll type in the user or schema name as HR in lowercase. The password also we need to set. Password is also HR in lowercase. There are three ways you can connect Toad to Oracle database. You can use what is called a TNS, you can use direct connection, and you can use LDAP. I'm not going to go into details of the various connection types. It's beyond the scope of this lecture. The TNS and LDAP are mainly suitable for corporate production environments, while for local setup, direct connection is more appropriate. So we're going to go for the direct way of connecting. So I'm going to click direct. And inside the directory, you need to specify a host name. So the host will be the local IP address, which is 127.0.0.1. And the port that Toad uses to connect to Oracle is 1521. The seed name, which is a reference to the database, is XE. And sometimes when you connect, you can have you can color code your connection, because you can have several connections to several schema. The HR schema is just one schema, so you can have several schemas, and you may want to color code each of the schemas so you know which one you're connecting to. So for here, I'm going to color code mine. I'm going to make this teal green, so this would be my connection color for this HR schema. The next option, installed client, you use that as it is, it's XE. Everything else is checked out. We click connect. If everything works out okay, if it's happy, it should connect to the database. So we'll click connect. So it is thinking about it. Hopefully it will connect. There's no error so far, so it's looking good. We are connected. So you can see my color code here, which means we have connected to the Oracle database successfully. This editor, when you can expand, you can just drag it along if you wish and expand that. So it is draggable. Okay. I'll just go through some of the features here. It's packed with loads and loads of features, but the ones you're going to be using most of the time is this window here. This is the editor, this interface you can see. This is the editor. This is where you're going to write your code, your SQL code, and execute, and the output, the result goes in there. So this is known as the editor. You can also access it via the toolbar called edit, and you've got something here called schema browser, which lets you browse various objects within the schema. If you notice here, it tells you you're going to be using SQL to execute SQL on the screen, on the code editor. You've also got the schema. This tells you what schema you're connected to. If I click on the drop down, there are several older schemas that comes with the Oracle database, but we are using the HR schema. Another good tool here is called the schema browser. If I click on that, it gives you, for example, you can look at all the objects within that schema. It tells you, for example, you've got tables selected. It gives you a list of all the tables for that schema. If you want to select a different, it tells you that's the schema HR. This is the object table. If I wanted to select something else, for example, select procedures, it tells me these are the procedures and so on. So you have various options you can select from. So schema browser, quite useful if you want to find out details about what is inside a schema. You can use the schema browser. So that is it. So the editor window is mainly where you will write your SQL code and execute your SQL code. So we can quickly test the editor to make sure it is talking to the database. Let's write a very simple SQL statement. So we do select star from. I know there is, let's go back to the schema browser. So if we click on the schema browser here, these are the tables. So we're going to pick out this table called employees. That's the table we're referring to. So I click back into the editor. I say select star from employees. So this is a simple SQL statement. The select means it's going to get all the data from that table. The asterisk means it will pick every column from that table. From is what you need. You need this clause to specify what table the data is coming from. So once you're done, you click on this button here that says execute, and it will give you the output. So this is the result of everything from that table. It tells you here, this is how long it took to execute this script. This is the rows the table has. That's the schema. This here is the host name, which is the IP address. That's the port. And these are other details for the connection string. All right, so we have successfully connected to our Oracle database using Toad, and we have tested the connection works. Thanks for watching. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, I'll be introducing you to the sample data we are going to be using for this course. Let's have a look at the data. I've got a folder here called sample data. So if I open that up, I've got two Excel spreadsheets that we'll be using. One we will use for insert, and the other we'll use to update the data inside our table. So this one here is what we'll use for the insert. So let me open it up so you can have a look. So in this spreadsheet, we've got a list of, we've got some data here that is a list of countries and the state capitals. So here we've got 197 countries listed. And we've got the country ID, we've got a column for the country, a column for capital city, and one for second city. We've already created a table that reflects these various columns, but now we are going to build a script in our next lecture that will insert these data into the table we have created. So notice this value here, null means empty, so we'll insert this value into the table, which means it will be empty, but when we look in, it will just be a blank table. There'll be nothing in those rows for these values. All right, so this is what we're going to build. We're going to actually build the query inside this spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet will be available for you to download and follow along in the course. So this is the first spreadsheet. Let's have a look at the second. It's almost identical. It's just that the second city part is populated slightly. Let's have a look at the other table. So this is the second spreadsheet. We will be using this spreadsheet to build and update bulk SQL queries to update the data in the table. So it's identical to the first spreadsheet, in that we've got the country ID, we've got the country, and we've got the second city. We have not included the capital city because we wouldn't need that in the update. The focus for the update is this column here called second city. So we've got about 28, I think, 28 28 records that will need to update in the table. So previously the first spreadsheet gives a null value, but we're going to build bulk queries that will insert these actual values here and replace it where the null values are. We're only going to insert about 28 of them just to show you so that we have something to work with when building the query. So that's it. We'll be working with these two spreadsheets. So that's it for this lecture on exploring the sample data. So now you've seen the data we're going to be building our queries on. Thank you so much. In the next lecture, we'll actually begin to build the queries. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to create a table. I have got Toad for Oracle Editor opened. I'm going to be using this to create the table. You can either use Toad for Oracle or you can use Oracle SQL Developer. The process is the same. So to create a table, you begin with the word create. I like to use uppercase, but it doesn't matter. You can use upper or lower. You type in the word create, space, followed by the word table. Followed by the name you want to call your table. So I call mine world underscore countries. You do a space and then you do parentheses. In between the parentheses, if you place your cursor and just tap down to expand, and in between is where you place your values. That is the columns for the table. So I'll just indent that a little bit. So I am going to have 4 columns in the table. So the first is going to be the country ID, country underscore ID, and the data type is going to be an integer, that is a number. So number, that'll be data type. And also I don't want the values to be empty, so I'm going to make sure a value is entered. So I'll do that by saying not null, and I will enable that to take effect. And then a comma. You need a comma to separate the columns. The next column is going to be the country itself. So I'll type in country, and the data type, I'm going to give it a voucher 2. I'm going to specify 4,000 bytes. I want it to store the data in that byte. That should be more than sufficient. Okay, and also I'm going to enforce the column so that the rows are not empty. So it will force you to put a value. So I'll type in not null and then enable and then a comma. Okay, so what I'm going to do, the next 2 columns, I'm just going to paste this twice and I'll just change the values to save time. So do a copy, paste, and copy, paste. So I'll just indent that a bit to be in line with the others, and I'll just bring that there a bit. All right, so the next value, I want capital city. So I'm going to change this to capital city underscore city, and I'm going to leave it with the same data type, voucher 2, 4,000 byte. Also, I don't want the rows to be empty, so hence I put not null and I've enabled it. So the next one is going to be second city. Sometimes you may need to specify a second city. So I'll type in second underscore city, and I will leave it to the same data type, but I don't want to enforce data to be inserted, so I will not specify not null. So this value here can be empty. Okay, and then comma. Next, I want to define a constraint for the primary key. To specify a constraint, you type in the word constraint. Constraint. I think I've got it right. Constraint, yep. C-O-N-S-T, I think constraints. Yep. Oh, I missed out the R. There should be an R there. Okay. I think I've got it now. Constraint, followed by the name you want to call the constraint. So I'll call it country underscore PK. And then space, I'll type in primary key, and then the value will be country underscore ID, and I'm going to enable that. Enable. So that is it. Notice I've not placed a comma at the end here, because that's the end of the statement. So once this is done, we just execute the script, just run it, and it should create a table. It says here table created, so we have the table created. So we can do a quick select statement. Let's do it on another. Let me open a new page by clicking the plus, and I'll just type in select star from the table name, which is world underscore countries, and I'll just run that. It should give me an empty table. There you go. So that's the table with all the columns: country ID, country, capital city, second city. So in our next lecture, we're going to start populating the table using a bulk SQL script created with Excel. Thank you so much for your time. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture on building bulk insert SQL queries with Excel. In this lecture, we are going to be prepping our data inside our Excel spreadsheet, and also we'll be writing a layout of how we want the script to look like inside our Toad for Oracle editor. Using Excel to create bulk multiple SQL queries is a very good skill and will help you a lot in a live production environment where you'll be involved in dealing with data that you have to insert maybe thousands of records, update thousands of records, or delete thousands of records. So it's a useful skill to have. So let's try and prep our data. So this is a sample data. I'll open that up. And inside there, we're going to be working with this first spreadsheet here. So I'll just double click to open. This is our data. This is where we will build the insert statements. So we're going to build multiple insert statements that will insert 197 rows inside the table we created. But before we can work with the data, we need to search for some characters within the data. So we need to look for things like ampersands or quotes and stuff. So to do that, just click any of the cells. So I'll pick that cell and do Control and F for Freddy. Control F, and inside there just type in the ampersand. Okay, so this is the ampersand. So do a find all, and it will look through the document to see if you can find any. So you can't find any. So next, let's look for the next character. Okay, do find all. Oh, it's found some. So what I tend to do is highlight the weird character. Notice there's a single quote between the Johns. This can affect the query when it is built, because with strings or text, you need to enclose them in single quotes. And if you having a single quote surrounded by this, it will get confused because it won't be able to differentiate between this single quote and the normal one. So where we have this, we'll need to put double quotes instead so that it doesn't conflict with this single quote here. So let me highlight that, and I'll go to next one and highlight. I'll go find next, I'll highlight, find next. So I just highlight all the ones I can find, and that's close to the bottom of the document. So I think we found all of them now, and I've highlighted them. Notice the quote between the text here. So I'll tell you what we'll do with them later. So for now, we're just prepping our document ready. So we can close that. When we're done, I'll click close. Another thing I tend to do is write out the sample script using Toad so that I know how to build the bulk query. So I've already done one, so I'll just explain that to you. So this is what the bulk queries will look like. So we're basically going to build this query 197 times so that we can insert the records into the table. So basically we'll start with an insert. So what I tend to do, the values that are static, that do not change, I tend to put them all in one cell. So this here, I'll copy and place in one cell. This one here, because these values do not change, I'll copy them. The values that do change are these ones here, which are values for this here, the static columns. So this is where we'll be creating the Excel formula that will insert various values to replicate what we have done here. All right. So now that we've got our layout of how we want our script to look like, and we have prepped our Excel document ready, in the next lecture, we're going to begin to build our insert query. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to build bulk insert SQL queries with Excel. In the previous lecture, we prepped the data. Now we're going to build the queries. Okay, let's start building our query. So I'm in the spreadsheet at the moment. So we are going to build a query here, in this cell here. This is where we'll build a query. Let's expand this a bit. Okay, so let's have a look at the layout. So this is the layout of the query. I want the query to go. So I'm going to build 197 of these that we will use to insert into the database, the table we created. So to begin, you put a equals to there and type in the word concat, C-O-N. Okay, double click and then go to formulas and click on insert. Concat basically is adding text together. That's what concatenation means. So click on the insert function there and you will get something like this. So this is where we'll build our query. So what I like to do to make things easy, because we've already got the layout. I will just copy this, because these are the static values that will not change. So we can copy that inside text 1 tab. It tells you there what you've copied. So it started, this is the formula result, it's building the query here. And then the second line here for text 2, we go back here and we'll pick this all here, because this is another static value. We'll pick that, including the parentheses, right click, copy, and open up the spreadsheet and paste it in there. And then tab down, so you can see we've got that there. It's slowly building the query there. So these are the static values. So we're going to, for the variables that do change, we'll be using formulas to create those. Okay, so if I open up the editor again, we've got another, now we need to copy the values. This will be the values that will change. The values in this, in between these parentheses here, will change for every cell. So text 3, I paste in the values. See, slowly building the query there. We have to insert the parentheses here. We insert just the first part. So we come here and do a parentheses. We'll do the closing one later. So this is the opening parentheses. And then text number 5, we insert a different value there. Text number 5, so we insert value number 1, which is the value for this country ID. That variable will change, so we need to use a cell, a formula for that. All right, so for that value, we go to A2. Okay, so this value, this variable will change according to the cell. So we'll go down. We'll look at our data again. So we've now got that value in there. This is an integer, so we don't need to surround that by quotes. Now we need to insert a comma. So we come here, we insert a comma. Okay, the next value we need to do, we need to insert a quote, this value, and then a quote afterwards. So come here, we insert a single quote, and then on line 8, we insert this value here, B2, which is this one here. We've got a single quote there, so we need to enclose it with another single quote. Then after that, we need a comma. We've done this bit, so we need a comma. Come here and place a comma there. And let's open up. After the comma, we need another single quote, the value, and then a single quote. So single quote, and the value is this, and then another single quote. Okay, it's useful if you've got two screens, then you don't have to keep flipping through. So we've got that down. Then we need a comma. We are nearly there. So we've got single quote, value, single quote, comma. And then we have this value here. We don't need to enclose that in quotes. So we've got our comma here. We insert this value, which is D2. That's the null value. Once, and then we close the parentheses. Okay, and then a semicolon, and then we are done. Scroll down and then we insert our semicolon. Okay, so we've inserted the semicolon. So the script is basically built, and then we say okay. So let's look at a query here. Let's expand this value here. Okay, so this is a query. To replicate it, I've got it on the wrong line, so I just need to highlight it, copy. It should be on this line. Okay, make sure it's on the line, not the line with the column, but this very line here. So now that we've got it in the right line, you see where it's got this little square there that looks like a square or rectangle. Make sure your mouse is there, double click, and it should propagate through. Okay, you can see it's copied everything. If you look at it on this line here, it says it got everything, it's got the values, got the quotes surrounding it, so everything's checked out okay. So I'll just expand that properly. Okay, and you can see everything there. Okay, unfortunately this video has gone on a bit longer than I expected, so I'm going to stop here and continue in part 2. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and bye for now. Hello and welcome to the part 2 of building bulk insert SQL queries with Excel. So let's finish off where we started off in part 1. So this was the model script that we created the bulk one from. So let's have a look at the spreadsheet. So this is the spreadsheet for the query. So what we have to do now we'll just copy everything from, just do control A. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. I'll just copy everything from this query. We're just copying just the result. The quicker way to do this is just highlight the actual cell and just right click and copy. So it copies the entire cell. We're now going to Toad for Oracle, and we open a new tab using the plus and paste it in there. Okay, one thing you have to look out for is to make sure that the queries, everything matches up. Okay, so we can see a warning sign here. I'll tell you what that warning is. I'm not sure if you could remember, but during the prepping of the data, we noticed that there were some text that had single quotes between them, like St. George's. So we had a few of them. So those will be flagged up inside our editor, Toad for Oracle editor, and I'll tell you what to do with them then. So let's go back to Toad and have a look. So this is the entire query, which is about 190, 97 of them. So we're going to address, see, these ones are all right. You can tell that they are okay. You can see everything matches up. The insert into in blue, the table name in green. These are the columns, and then the values, and these are the result of the values. These are the variables for the values. So everything matches up. If you notice on line 7 here is flagged up something. This if you notice on the, when we were doing the prepping, we noticed there were some single quotes between text, and that is conflicting with the single quotes here. So to solve that, we'll need to change this single quote here to a double quote. So we'll place a double quote there and one there so that it does not interfere with the single quotes. You notice everything's gone green now, so that's sorted. There should be a few more. Let's look through. Okay, oh, there's one more here. So on line 35, if you notice here, there's a single quote and it's conflicting with a single quote. So we'll change this to a double quote. And this here to a double quote. And that should solve the problem. Okay, so that looks good. There should be more on line 43. Notice this here. We need to change that by making this a double quote. And then coming here and changing that value to a double quote. That should solve the problem. So let's scroll down. There should be a couple more. It's one on 68. Let's change this one here where it's got Saint. Change that to a double. And then we'll come here and change that to a double. And that fixes that. There should be one more, I think. I think there's one more towards the end. Oh yeah, okay. There you go. This one here, so change that to double quote. And this to a double quote. So it doesn't interfere with a single quote here. And here we just turn this into a comment and say end of script. All right, so now that we've got our script already, I'll just highlight all of them and click execute as a script. So I'm going to execute all of them as a script and it should start populating the table. So before we do that, let's have a quick look at the table, see what the table looks like. It should be empty. From world_countries. So this is the table. I missed out. That should be underscore. So this is the table we're trying to populate. So let's go back to our script. Now that we've got everything highlighted, we click execute as a script. And okay, we've got some errors somewhere. The reason we had some errors when we were trying to execute the script, in that the rows where we changed the quotes to double quotes, Oracle does not like double quotes in its column. So we have to trick it. The way around it is to replace the double quotes where there's an apostrophe with two single quotes. So I've done it in most of them. I'll just do it on the last one so that you can see what happens. So on here on line 195, where we have to change that to single quotes and this to single quotes. And where you have these here, these quotes here, just add another and that should solve the problem. Okay, because Oracle does not like double quotes. So where we've got the quotes between the text, you just put an extra quote in and that should solve the problem. So now we can execute our query. So it's on line 197, which is the last row. So I'll go execute as a script and you can see it's doing the job now. So everything is working as planned. So when done, it should insert. There you go, it's inserted. See how quickly it is. And if you are in a production environment, you could be doing literally thousands of this type of thing. So you can see how relatively easy it is to create something like this with Excel. So let's go and query our table so we can see the data. So I'll just do, this is a select statement, and you can see now the table is populated. You can scroll all the way through. We've populated the table. See how quickly we did that? So we've got the ID, country, capital, everything populated. The third value is null, hence you've got nothing in there. So this is how you would use Excel to build bulk SQL queries to perform an insert. Thank you so much. I hope it has been useful. Take care and bye for now. In our next lecture, we'll try and build a query to update some records. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to build bulk update SQL queries using Excel. Before we build the bulk script, let's have a look at the data we are trying to update. So I have already done a query here to display the data inside the table, this table called world_countries. So as you can see, these are the columns for the table. The second city column, notice the rows there are empty at the moment. So what we're going to do, we're going to populate this second city column here up to line 28. So we have got some data that we can insert to update this column. So we'll be stopping at line 28. So let's have a look at the data we are going to use. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that we're going to build our bulk SQL queries on. The second city column here has been populated up till line 28. So we're going to use this data to insert into our table, to insert these values that we have. So let's have a look at a sample query we're going to model our bulk query on. So this is the sample query we're going to build here, something like this. So it's good to sketch out or write your sample query first, so you can have a feel of what it will look like when you build it. Also, it guides you in building the bulk queries. All right, let's begin. So let's go right to the top here. So this is where we're going to start the query on. We're going to build it here. Let's expand that. Okay, so we begin with the equals to and then type in concat, which stands for concatenation. Once that's selected, go to formulas and insert function. So this is where we'll build the queries. Okay, let's have a look at our model. So this is the model here. Let's break that down a bit so we can see. So the first thing I'll do is grab this, all this, and copy. You can do Control and C and Control V also to copy and paste. So paste that in there and go to the next text. So you see we've got the query there, it's building it there. We go back again and grab this, because these are values that are constant, they will not change. So hence it's easier to just copy them without setting a formula. So we'll come back here and paste that in. Okay, that's it, slowly building there. And then number 3, okay, we've got this city here. So this is a variable that will change. So we need to start using a formula for that. So notice it's got quotes on either side because it's a text. So we need to apply the quotes for the string. So we need to insert a single quote. And then on here, we need to insert the cell, which is this one here. Okay. No, sorry, that's not the one we want. We actually want this one here, C2, because it says here, let's have a look at the model. So where's city equals this? It was referring to the second city. All right, and then another single quote there. Okay, let's go down. Let's have a look at our model. And next, this also is a constant. This doesn't change. We can copy all of that because that does not change. Copy that. Open our spreadsheet and paste that in. You can see it's building it there on the bottom. Finally, we are almost there. We need to insert this value and then the semicolon. So the value is the country ID. So that is a variable that will change. So we need to use a formula. So we come here and type in this value, which is the country ID value. You can see it there. I think our query is complete. Next, we just need to insert the semicolon, that, and the query is complete, and we say OK. So this is the query. Let's have a look at our model. You can see it looks the same. This is the model here, and look at the query we've created. So I think we've done a good job. Okay, now we need to replicate that across. So why this little square here, put your mouse, once it turns into a cross, just double click and it replicates true. So let's expand that so you can see. So we need the data up till line 28. If you notice here, after line 28 here, it inserts some dummy data. We don't want that. So we'll get rid of data from here. I just say right to the end, we delete that because we do not need that data. We haven't got the data for that. Okay, just highlight all that and delete. So the data we're going to work with, it's ending on line 28. So now that we've got that, I'm going to stop this lecture here because it's gone on a bit long, and in part 2 we will copy the script and just check if there are any weird characters that's going to prevent the script from running. Thank you so much for your time. Take care and bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture, the part 2 of the building bulk update SQL queries with Excel. So we'll continue where we left off in part 1. So this is the bulk SQL queries that we created in part 1. So now we're going to copy them into our tool for Oracle editor and then run them in bulk as a script. So just highlight the cell, copy, and open up Toad. Let's bring that up a bit, and let's open up a new window, editor window. I'll just bring that down a bit, and let's click the plus to reveal a new window, and then right click and paste. Let's have a look at our query. Let's look through to check if there are any errors. If there are any errors, usually it will be on the side and you get a red blob there telling you. So let's look through, make sure there are no errors. You can see You can tell sometimes by the coloration. You can see like all the update match, this country match, the set matches, everything matches. You can see the quotes on either side of the text. Text is also referred to as string. So you can see all the values match up. Let's have a look. Make there are no errors. We will just execute the script. Okay, it appears there are no errors, no weird characters like extra single quote between the text. It's nothing like that. So once we're ready, we'll put the cursor there at the last line there, which is line 29. We know where the cursor is, and then run this. You click execute as a script. So I click on that and you can see it's doing its thing. So it has inserted, it tells you here 28. So it inserted 28 rows. When you run script, always remember to do the update as well, to commit. Okay, even though we've inserted some data or modified the data, we also need to commit by clicking on this button here that says commit. So once you do that, it actually commits what you've done to the database. Without the commit, the data doesn't always become permanent. So it tells you here row line 28 is the last row that was inserted. So let's do a query just to check on the database to see where we are. So we do a select star from world underscore countries. Remember, this is the column here that will be populated up to line 28, up to this line here. So let's execute. As you can see, the data is in. You can see that. If I scroll down up to line 28, you should notice some data. Okay, so let's go down a bit. Okay, so that's where it stops, line 28. So we have successfully modified or updated the data in our table using bulk SQL queries. The process is the same whether you're doing a few dozen or whether you're doing 10,000. You use the same process. So you can see how easy and quickly it is to build SQL queries in bulk using Excel to simplify the work you have to do. So that's it for this lecture. In our next lecture, we are going to try and remove the rows from this table, this column here. So these values that we've just modified, we're going to try and remove them all, or at least remove some. Okay, so we do that in the next lecture. Thank you so much for your time. Take care and bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to be deleting some rows from our database table. We are going to use update SQL queries to achieve that, and I will explain why. We are going to use the update rather than actually using the delete keyword to do the deletion. So we'll be building bulk update SQL queries, but to achieve a delete function. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, say for example, we had a request that the update we performed on this column here, second city, that they want it removed because it's not complete. So they want all the data that we updated or inserted into this column here. They want all the data removed. So all these rows, these are all rows. So like this one, that one, they want all the rows from this column removed. The best way to achieve that is to use update statements. With the update statement, we can set the values in these rows to null, and that will make them empty. which is kind of like achieving the same objective. The reason why it's not advisable to use a delete function rather than use update, it's better not to use a delete, because when you use the delete will delete the entire row. It doesn't just delete a row specific to the column. So if I was to use a delete instead of an update, it will wipe out the entire row that I've highlighted. So it doesn't just remove the row under the second city column, it will remove under the capital city, under the country, under the ID. It removes everything. Okay, so that's the distinction between using a delete and an update. So however, if the request was to remove the entire row, for example, the one row number, the one ID 25, they want all the data removed, then in that case we can use the delete keyword to achieve that, because it will remove all the entire row. So know the distinction and when to use update and when to use delete. Delete removes the entire row. Update can impact just the cell or the row, the record under that column. So now that we know the distinction, we are going to build an update bulk query to remove the data from this second city column. Okay, as usual, I have written out the model script that I will build on top of. So this is what we're going to build. So this is the statement: update the world underscore countries, that's the table, and we're going to set the value in the table, in the column second city, we're going to set it to null. So all the records under this column will be null. Null means empty. Okay, where the country ID is this. So the country ID will use to determine which records we will set. Okay, so now that we've got our model script set out, let's go over to our spreadsheet. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet we're going to build the query on. I'll just expand that. So we're going to start building it from that line. So we're going to make all this value here. This was what we inserted in our previous video. We're going to make all this value empty on the database table. I've already showed you what the structure looks like. So we're going to build queries that will make that empty. This video has gone on a bit long, so I'm going to split that in two. In part 2, we're going to build the actual bulk queries inside this spreadsheet. So I'm going to end this lecture here and we'll continue in part 2. Thank you so much for your time. Take care and bye for now. Hello and welcome to this lecture. In this lecture, we are going to continue to build our bulk update SQL queries using Excel. We're going to use that to delete rows or records from a column in a table. Okay, I've got the spreadsheet with the data and also our model inside our Total Oracle editor. So this is what we are going to model our bulk queries on here. So to begin, we'll come to the cell that we want to build the query on, which is this cell. Put an equals to there and then type in concat, C-O-N-C. Click on it, one click or double, and then go to your formulas and go insert. So this is where we'll begin. So let's look at the model. So we copy the parts that do not change first, which is this. So we'll copy this here. Copy the spaces as well. Right click, copy, go to our spreadsheet, right click, paste, Go to the second text. It says built it there, and it's also building it there. Second text will be this. This also does not change. So copy that, including the equals to. Actually, we can copy the null as well, because we don't want this variable to change. So that will be used. Copy that and right click, paste. Go to the next. You can see that update world countries, set second city equals to null, because that will not change. Okay, this also will not change where ID equals to. So this is going to be a simple query to build. Then we'll put in there. Excellent. You can see it there. It's building it there. So that means the only variable we're going to change is 1. And then we have to add a semicolon. So we use our cell. We'll come here and we go to here. Country ID, put that there, and then come here and put a semicolon to end the query. So that's it, and then you click OK. So query has been built. We just come here again, look where that little square is, put your cursor there until it turns like a cross, double click, and it replicates across. So we don't want this on the entire cell, so we're going to stop it when we get to line 28. Okay, so this is where we want it to end, because this is where the data stops. So we'll delete from there. We'll delete all the rest. Just scroll down. Okay, that's the last. Oops. I think I overshot that again. So let's go back from here. Just highlight and delete. Okay, so we got the data we want. Just gonna copy that. Copy the cell. One click, right click, copy, and paste it into our editor. Let's bring that up a bit. I'll open a new window with a plus and paste it in there. The first thing we need to check for is any weird characters. If there's any, our query should complain. Let's move that up a bit. Okay. So usually any errors will be highlighted on the left. So let's scroll through. I can't see anything at the moment. Everything looks okay. So we're going to be inserting or deleting 28 records. We're not actually, we are deleting in a way, because we're going to, rather than delete, we're going to insert the null value in there, which will make it blank. So it's as good as delete. It's the safest option when you have this, when you've got all the data that you don't want to remove in the rows. So you place your cursor on the last query there and you execute. So you should execute a total of 28 lines. You should insert data there. So I click here that says execute as a script. Executing as a script will execute all in a sequence. So do that. It says doing that. Excellent. So it's done that. It has inserted the records. After that, I need to commit it by clicking on the commit there. I click commit. So now let's do a query, and we can see this. Currently there's some data there, but if I run the query now, it should be empty. So let's move that here a bit. And okay, and just execute as a single query. You can see the data is now blank, so there's nothing there for that column. So you can see the advantage of using the null to set the value to null, because it makes it empty. So it's as good as deletion. It's best not to use delete if you've got all that data in the row. This entire is a row. So what we've done is the safest option, in these circumstances. There may be other circumstances where you need to delete the entire row. In that case, you'll be using a delete keyword rather than an update. So the process is the same. The process for building queries is the same, whether you're doing an insert, an update, a delete. You can also build bulk queries for select statements, but it's more useful towards deletions, updates, and inserts. So thank you so much for your time. Take care and bye for now.